All right, welcome everyone to another edition of Pre-Market Prep at the Close. Spencer Israel, Joel Elconin, Hot Stocks, Luke Jacobi joining us here for the next 20 minutes or so, walking us into the close. We have ourselves another broad-based rally here, folks. I will pull up the charts of the S&Ps and I'll have Joel walk us through exactly what has happened today. Joel.
All right. Well, first of all, we got 8 minutes, 9 minutes until the imbalances come out,
That's
and
true.
that could surely change the complexion of everything. But just going on a 24-hour basis here, we're trading roughly 27.20 in the S&P 500 index futures. When those imbalances came out yesterday, we were trading about 27.90. So we've gone a round trip. The low for the day was made in the pre-market session at 26.2075. That's just below the low from Tuesday. So the old double bottom there, we talked about it. You caught a bid midday, and just kind of there was nothing on the way down. There was not much on the way up. We've gotten all the way to 27.46, and Hot Stocks Luke noted that was just 4 points away from the high from yesterday. We still have 18 minutes to go, so we could easily take out that level. But 27.50 yesterday's high, that's a big bogey on the upside. Crude catches some good news just as it was at a major support level. 23.5 was a double bottom we had mentioned from last Friday and Tuesday. Got to 23.74, and they flipped the oil trick on us and ran us up to 26.45 with some good news. Gold flat on the session here at 1683.5. Silver slightly in the red at 15.25, and Bitcoin once again a little bit sleepy here, down $20 at 7,310. So let's go, Spencer. Just give us that oil news, and then we'll bring in
Well,
hot
actually,
stock.
I wanted to throw it to Luke for the oil news because he was more on it than I was. So,
Sure.
Luke, what was the oil news we got this afternoon?
Yep. So we got news. It was coming out of or coming from Algeria's oil minister, and he said, "quote OPEC Plus is discussing a massive oil production cut." That's the end of the quote. So, a quick little comment there. We see what it did to the market. And we've talked about oil, as a thesis a couple times, and I'm long oil from just a little bit above 20, and I think this goes to show, how much impact the big players in this market can have on it. Absolutely.
Well, that's kind of what kickstarted the rally, or at least kept us from, kind of going into the abyss at the end of last week, was all the oil talk. And, the oil stocks have taken a haircut, but they're still a big component of the S&P 500 index, big component of our economy. So very important for that. And that's gotten the oil stocks, ExxonMobil up $2.16. So kind of a continuation of, it was a little bit quiet, but that kind of news, and that's what lit. The S&Ps were trying to get up to yesterday's high, but that kind of lit the fire that got it up there. So good news in the oil patch.
And here's something else that I'm thinking about, and tell me your thoughts on this. But when we had that big oil sell-off, it was the Russia Saudi Arabia fight. That was really before the whole coronavirus pandemic took hold in a lot of those countries. And now that it's becoming as crippling as it is, especially for, small businesses, local businesses, and, just a general shutdown of the economy. I think that getting oil prices back up and higher, so these countries can generate some additional revenue to help them stem this, economic decline that they're having.
It was a double whammy.
Yeah,
it was a double whammy. I mean, just as we were going into the COVID-19 crisis, to have this oil shock as well. So yeah, definitely for these oil producing nations, to have this oil price back up, nowhere near at the levels it was, but definitely helping it. And that was I think one of the reasons the market we would have gotten hit on the coronavirus anyways, but to have that oil shock thrown in there too, I think that just accentuated the pace and the depth of the decline.
Exactly. And if you think about it the other way as well, if there's no coronavirus, but the price of oil halves, I mean, I'm still guessing that chops the top off of the S&Ps.
Yeah, it does. Just the double whammy is really what got us. So still within striking distance of yesterday's high, which has been the high of the move. Another level that we've talked about on the show is that 50% retracement for the spider and the S&Ps that comes in at like the 286 level. That would be 278 in the spider. So struggling to get back, or very close to getting back a half of all those ugly losses that we had in late February and early March. Spencer, you had some stocks that you wanted to cover today.
Yeah, I just wanted to confirm real quick that the timing of tomorrow's OPEC Plus meeting, I think is it 10 a.m. I'm almost positive it is 10 a.m. Eastern time. I'm just trying to confirm that right now because it's just sort of hold our breath here until that meeting, that conference call tomorrow morning, because that's all that really matters. So
Yeah, go wide. Go wide on that. I mean, they got the rally. I mean, how deep the cuts are. If they decide, if they get in a big old fight and decide not to, then boom, you go right back to $23.50. So I think anybody that trades the oil futures, oil related stocks, I mean, how big of a factor politics and OPEC are. And, it's just very hard to gauge. It's very hard to be short oil, based
yeah,
on these circumstances.
yeah.
And that's, so that's never recommended when these kind of talks are going
All
on.
right, so it is 10 a.m. Eastern time, so we'll be watching that. That'll be the big driver, I think, of sentiment tomorrow morning. It's funny because if this were a normal day in a normal market, we would have said, well, maybe the market's rallying off of the news that Bernie Sanders is dropping out of the presidential race, but market could not care less about that at this
A
point.
couple
I thought he
pharmaceutical names moved a little bit, but
Okay,
yeah. I mean, you're generally right.
generally,
I thought he already dropped out.
yeah,
More, I mean, it was a long shot.
yeah.
So,
All right,
Spencer, really quick
yeah.
on the OPEC Plus call tomorrow. Is that
Yeah.
a public call, or is that just with the members, and we're just gonna be waiting for some leaks to come out of it?
Oh, I actually don't know. It's a great question. I believe it's a members call, and we
We'll be
will
watching
find
Benzinga
out.
Pro. Just see the leaks coming out.
Yep, we will find out as it's happening, / after it happens, what they discussed. But I don't believe it's a public call. I can't imagine it would be. All right, a couple stocks from the chat. Actually, before let's do one, and then we need to watch the market here at 350. I'll pull up a 1 minute chart, watching for the imbalances. But someone asked us very politely here, Soul Connection in the YouTube chat, please talk about Zoom. Gladly, Soul Connection. I'll pull up ZM on the.
I was gonna say, while you're pulling that up, Spencer, I do want to bring a concern to your attention, which is that we're doing this call on Zoom right now. I've heard about these security concerns. I don't know. Should I be worried? What's going on?
Look, I mean, I say this as someone whose dad has had a career in the cybersecurity industry, and I grew up being paranoid about these sort of things and information security and that sort of thing. Nothing you can do about it, Luke. I mean, we're already in it. I mean, we've been using Zoom here for what, like 2 years. So we're already in it. Like, what are we gonna do? Nothing. So I have a pretty laissez-faire attitude about the whole thing, just because we've been using Zoom this entire time. I mean, the CEO pledged they're going to do better, so that sounds nice.
I mean, how many? Well, first of all, how many actual, hackings is there? Is there? I mean,
well,
someone's got a little feeling about the imbalances
Very
to
nice.
the upside. There you go.
let me pull up my chart.
Yep. Well, it looks like 2750 is going to be a thing of the past here in about 28 seconds here. We just hit 2751. The imbalances must be slated to the buy side here. Scrambling to get ahead of the, but did find some resistance here. I'm not looking at my pro. I don't know if they've been posted yet, but just the way that initial surge was, that took us up to 2751 gives me a feeling they are slanted to the buy side there. So we did make a new high. We have matched a new high for the move here. Above that, 2780. We'll see if sellers dig in here at 2751. as far as just going back to Zoom here, well, first of all, we say every time this is not investment advice, we say that. So if they're listening, if you're Zoom, if you're listening, this is not investment advice.
Zoom, if you're listening to us.
This is not investment advice. Um, I'm just going to talk about their price action because I know that someone hopped in an alcohol anonymous meeting. I don't know how many hackings there have been. I know absolutely nothing about it. All I know is that I love and use the product. Okay, and it's very efficient. And the more listeners we get for the show, if any of you if Zoom wants to sponsor us, we'd be more than glad for you to be a sponsor of the show. So I like the product. The valuation is very hard, something that I don't, that's why Dennis and I talked about these stocks won't be in our portfolio. Now for a trade, I was hoping it was going to get down to the $100 area, 105. But I guess a lot of other shorts out there and other people have been thinking that way. We talked about the double bottom yesterday. Let's just call it 109. They pressed it. They couldn't get it there today. They only got the 112.50. I don't know what happened to spike us up to 125.88. I'm looking to see if there was any news associated with that. But that move was stuffed out just because a lot of people are caught in this stock. You were at 160. You hit 160, 159 back on March 30th, and then you came down to 108.53. So a lot of people caught from the last couple of weeks, and they're just trying to wiggle out, as well as people that have been in the stock for a long time but are deciding to book profits. So, man, that 109, 110 area, that looks like fantastic support. And it'd be nice if it could get a boost. I see two highs in the 125 handle. Maybe get over 125, 126, and you get to get back half of this move. But it's just tight. It's tight, and it's going to move on the news. Also, you got to be aware that, can someone else create a product like this? What are the barriers to entry on this? So a lot of different things. That's the way I'm looking at it. Luke, any comments? I don't think you have this in your investment portfolio, do you?
Yeah, no, I mean, I follow, stocks that trade like this are too crazy for me. I know my name is Hot Stocks Luke, but this stock is too hot, and stocks that move like this are too hot for me to touch. But a couple comments. I did have a call with a bank either earlier this week or last week, sent them a Zoom link, and they said they're not allowed to use Zoom. So we had to switch it over to Microsoft Teams. And that was the first time I used Microsoft Teams. That's Microsoft created the Slack competitor. Work is the ticker. And that was an awesome product. And I've had a couple of calls on Microsoft Teams since then. I know it's super, super anecdotal evidence. But it seems like the security concerns scared out some of the big companies.
Yeah.
But I imagine that a lot of the smaller companies would care less. Sort of like you were just mentioning, Spencer. We've been on it for years. We love the product. Don't have plans to move off of it.
So I'm just seeing a few different numbers here being spattered around as far as what the market on close buying balance was. I'm seeing 2.2 billion, 3.5 billion.
But that's not super huge. I mean, and we talked about that with Dennis.
You're right. It's not huge. It's not huge. It's not huge normally, but it is huge in the context of no one knew about this 5 minutes ago.
Well, we talked about it. If anybody wants a more in-depth explanation of it, we talked about it is because because of the floor, there's a lack of floor brokers, and the floor brokers were getting a look at those imbalances a little bit earlier, and they were giving the opportunity to offset. So now with nobody to offset those imbalances, it relies on stat arb traders like Dennis, who, if any of you listen to the morning show with me, I mean, these stat arbs are getting hit. They're the ones that are absorbing all this stock, and it's just too much for them to handle. You need institutions to come in and take the other, part of the other side of these trades. So that's why which normally, a $2 billion, $3 million imbalance wouldn't move the stocks. But when you have, the lack of the floor traders and institutions participating in it, it's a big move. Now here, now people might get stuffed on this one because there are buying balances. and they juiced it up to 27.52.50, and now you backed off 10 points. So, just because you can get the imbalances and you find out what they are, it's not guaranteed money. And here's a situation where everyone leaning long here into the close, because we still got 4 minutes to go, they might get this jammed down their throat. So it's a tricky way to play and a tricky way to make money. So we'll see what happens in the last couple of minutes of trading. And if you want a more detailed explanation of that, you should listen to the morning show. Dennis does a great job of detailing it.
And Joe, I've got a question for you. So you and Spencer talk about the 50% retracement a lot.
Yes.
What are you watching as we're getting up to that? Hitting it, etc.
I use it more is like targets, like and you could, and I like it for different ways. So you had a big decline here in the stock market, right? In the spider, right? So when the market finally turns, and you could tell a couple of weeks ago that you made a bottom, there's other retracement levels that people look at, 382 and 0.618. They're Fibonacci numbers. My buddy Mike Simon just always taught me about 50% retracement. So what that does is it gives me an area where if this market's starting to rebound and I'm playing things from the long side on a short term or intermediate term basis, it's an expectation where I have the market to go to. Okay. And I can look at daily resistance levels and whatnot, but markets, and all the quant traders, it gravitates to those levels. So for me, we're going to get up there. It's going to be resistance. We're finding resistance in that general area right now. You may get a substantial pullback off that, but I tell you, I've seen times where we've had a big decline in the S&Ps. We pause at the 50% retracement and just blast higher. So you can use it for several ways. You can use it for a potential long. You can use or to exit along. You can use it as a potential short, and vice versa. When a stock has a big rally and then it starts to retrace, if you're looking to enter the stock and you find the 50% and it coincides with a couple daily levels. So I think one most thing you got to keep in mind is looking at the market from different perspectives. And even though the market was way down there at 2174, built in my head in the expectations, I'm like, if this rallies for real, they're going to get to the 50% retracement. And that's exactly what the market's done. So was that a good enough explanation for you?
Perfect, as always.
Yeah, and just to give you a feel as far as how I'm using it, for me, it's a buy signal. I have a plan for what to do on the downside that is much more detailed. My plan on the upside is not as detailed. It's pretty much, okay, do we hit the 50% number? If so, that is a big confidence booster. I'd be much more willing to buy and put like real money to work. I know I bought Slack yesterday, but that's like a very small percent of my portfolio. But I'd be willing to put real money to work if we got over that 50% hump. So that to me is like the bogey. So that's why it's been on my radar here. And I haven't really done anything as far as buying goes until we got to that number.
Okay. It's like you can't really split hairs with it. I mean, like yesterday, like yesterday I was hesitant off the open because we had such a big 2-day move, and I'm like, wow, getting up here in 2 days from 2,500, that's quite the big move. And as it turned out, we hit 2750, we pulled back. Today, so tomorrow, 2750 to 2752 is going to be a bigger level to me than that actual 50% retracement, because the market gave me 2 daily highs here at that level.
15 seconds here, Joel. Let's wrap it up. How are we looking heading into the 4 o'clock print?
Well, it looks like people that fell for that buying balance might be getting goosed right now, because you got that initial surge up to 2750, but you only got to 5250, and you found sellers here. So either retail, like maybe guys like Dennis, had a little too much to chew last night, bite off the chew. So they backed off on it, and just people saw some profit taking up there at yesterday's high. So not the fireworks that you expected with the buying balances. And like I told you, they weren't super huge, and they usually don't move the market. But we're posting a new closing high for the move wherever we end up here at 415. A great day for the market, closing over the quarterly number. You got a bogey on the upside, tomorrow to take a look at and see if the market can continue this rally.
All right, please remember all the information from this broadcast is meant to be used as informational purposes only, not for investing or trading advice. For Joel Elconin and Luke Jacobi, I'm Spencer Israel. Everyone have a great rest of your day and be safe out there.